the record. Council agenda, Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, Township Council agenda meeting of May 7th, 2019. Posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Publics Meeting Law by filing the notice in the Township of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board in the municipal building on December 19th, 2018, where it has remained posted since that date. The legal notice appeared in the Daily Record of the Newark Star Ledger on December 27th, 2018, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and the local radio stations on December 19th, 2018. No council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 11 a.m. on Sundays and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. Please rise for the flag salute. Grignani, if you would.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Okay. Ms. McCarthy is excused for today. Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Also in attendance are Business Administrator Keith Kasmark, CFO Ann Cucci, Township Attorney Jim Lott, and the Township Clerk Colette Madden. Council President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Upcoming meetings, May 14th at 7 p.m. regular meeting, June 11th, 7 p.m. agenda meeting. Approval of minutes, presentations, reports.
Council President,
Council,
before
go
we
ahead.
do the presentations, I'd like to wish Colette Madden, our Township Clerk, Kareem Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you.
Sorry, I said it backwards. I apologize.
Thank you.
Got good intentions there, so it's all that
Yes,
matters.
I did.
Okay, any Township Council members have anything?
I just have one thing. I spoke to Jim Walsh about the potential new projects coming down the pipeline that we've approved the bonding, specifically the cricket field, and I just want to clarify that without the staff members, it's not that he's not going to build any new construction projects, and that includes the cricket field. And it's not an issue of the construction that would be contracted out either way. It's that the department is already stretched thin enough that he, in his estimation, can't support the construction and maintenance of a new field. And so I just wanted it on the record that if hopes were high for that cricket field, as of this budget approval, that's not any longer in the future.
Okay. I also spoke to Mr. Walsh, and I respectfully disagree with him. We did put 2 people back in the budget, so for him to say that because of one employee is going to be responsible for the maintenance of the new cricket field, and we're not going to build the new cricket field because of one laborer in the parks, I think that is absolutely ridiculous. So I respectfully disagree with that, and I will be doing everything possible to make sure that that field gets built.
I agree with you.
Township Attorney, Mr. Lott.
As noted on the agenda, I have 2 matters for closed session. One involves contract negotiation for the Southeast Morris Water Utility, and the other one concerns the agreement for Habitat Humanity, Henry Street.
Thank you. Business Administrator, Mr. Kasmore.
Thank you, Council President. Just a few matters. On April 24th, there was a public hearing held by JCP&L on their proposed new lines through the township. It was a hearing which was well attended. The primary focus of the hearing was intended to be the land swap with regard to the diversion through a Green Acres parcel. Number of residents spoke at that hearing. In my estimation, and I made this public after the hearing, I did not feel that JCP&L was adequately prepared to answer the questions that the residents had, nor did I feel that they gave satisfactory answers on some of the most simplistic and basic questions. I made that clear along with the township clerk to the representatives from JCP&L at the conclusion of the hearing, and we received word the following morning from JCP&L that they were going back to the drawing board on this project to seek alternatives based upon the residents' concerns that were expressed during the hearing. And at this point, they have not asked or requested any subsequent meetings with the township until they figure out how they are going to move forward, if they do at all. Secondly, for the council's edification, we've concluded contracts with the Blue Collar Local 1 unit, as was discussed during our budget hearings. That contract is on for your consideration and review this evening, as is the corresponding salary ordinance. And also tonight listed for your review are the salary ordinance for all of the white-collar non-union folks, which was also discussed during budget hearings. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment in reference to what you stated about that meeting. I've spoken to many residents that live in that area, and it is of great concern to me that, I know there are no one is happy with that route, including myself, and I just want anyone that's from that neighborhood to know that I will fully support you, and, I represent the entire town, and when there is an area that there are a lot of people that are not happy with something, we work for you. So you're not happy, I'm not happy, and I will fight for you all the way.
I have spoken to a resident, Mr. Fisher. I've spoken to him several times, and I'm going to agree with Paul. We are here to serve you and to make sure that whatever is important to you is important to us. And hopefully, Jersey Central Power and Light will rethink what they were proposing.
Okay, Township Clerk, Mr. Madden.
Just one item, Council President. We have the primary election coming up, and I just want to remind everyone about the voter registration. Voter registration deadline is May 14th, and I also want to remind everyone that in the primary election, you can vote only your party unless you're undeclared, and if you vote at that time at the polls, you will be declared that party, and then you'll have to change it back. So just a quick reminder for everyone. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Township offices, committees, reports, anything?
I want to thank the residents who came to the daycare center rummage sale. I understand it was a very well-attended and a success for the daycare center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one item, Council President. Under Township Offices, Committees, and Reports, we received an email that there's a vacancy on the Open Space Committee. I serve as liaison to the Open Space Committee, and the one is not really a vacancy, there's a name there whose term has expired. I will try to reach out to see if that person wants to continue to serve on the Open Space Committee.
Thank you. Okay, engineering report, Lake Parsippany Road Improvements, Phase 6 project. The project is substantially complete and only minor punch list items remain. All work will be completed by the end of May. No council action required. Moraine Road Area Streets, Phase 2 project. The second phase of this project is substantially complete. All work will be completed by the first week of May. No council action required. Mount Tabor Area Streets, Phase 3 improvement project. Construction is approximately 75% complete. The project will be substantially complete by the end of May. No council action required. Drainage issues. Engineering and the Public Works Department are actively investigating numerous drainage issues, continue wet weather and very high groundwater levels throughout the township. The Cherry Lane issues are still being evaluated, and the Water Department is further investigating the possibility of a water main leak. Excavation equipment will be on site in 2 weeks to conduct subsurface investigations. No council action required. Edgewood Court reconstruction project. The project is in construction and will be complete by the beginning of June. No council action required. Sandra Drive and Sandra Court reconstruction project. The pre-construction meeting was held and construction work is anticipated to start by the beginning of May. No council action required. 2019 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. The pre-construction meeting for this project will be held the second week of May, and the construction is anticipated to begin at the end of June once schools are out. No council action required. On Bloomfield Ave, Phase 2 reconstruction project. The pre-construction meeting for this project will be held in the middle of May. Construction is anticipated to start in the beginning of June. No council action required. Mount Tabor Fire District 1, major soil moving permit, Block 14, Lot 12.01. The Board of Adjustment has recommended approval of a major soil moving permit associated with the Forge Pond Developers Site Plan application on Old Dover Road. This office has reviewed the application and recommends the Township Council approve the permit. A resolution will need to be adopted by the Township Council. Bids taken April 4th, supplying various materials for the municipal utilities and public works. April 18th, paper leaf bags to be taken. May 21st, one new Diamond Z horizontal grinder or approved equivalent for the Parks and Forestry Department. Quotations, proposals, qualifications. April 11th, fireworks display services. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Motion?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani.
Yes.
Ms. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Okay, floor is open to the public.
Okay, at this time, I believe there's a list. People have signed in already. If you have signed in, if we could just go on that. Go in order. Yeah. And then you'll be given 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Robert Peluso, former Vice President of the Council, 15 Larkspur Drive, with my son, Robert Peluso, the future of Parsippany, our children, our families. I have a statement here. I'm speaking on behalf of many taxpayers that could not come this evening, and many of our constituents as well. As you can see, we know how to fill a room because the public has some information that they want to share with you. In regards to the property where our township owns Block 621, lots 11, 13, and 24, that is encumbered by green acre restrictions. And whereas JCP&L reinforcement project will cross this restricted township land and bodies of water, JCP&L requires rights from the township and your approval as council in connection to this project. JCP&L had a scoping hearing that you did not attend, but we have 125 residents approximately that came to that meeting, and we hope you reviewed the public comments. JCP&L indicated on their slide presentation they had other alternatives. Take no action and not construct the project. Utilize system alternatives and upgrades to transmission system, which may cost them a little bit more money, but it protects these people behind me, our residents. We serve at the pleasure of our residents. We are public servants. Consider alternate routes and use construction alternatives. The residents have spoken, and we request that you vote no when this comes across your council. If you vote no, you will be part of the following. You will be agreeing with our environmental committee concerns. You will not be granting easements where there is no current right-of-way. You will be preventing possibility of the Pilgrim Oil Pipeline from sharing this same right-of-way and having crude oil coming through our community. You'll be preventing the destruction of the endangered wetlands that retain water. You'll be protecting heavily forested neighborhoods. You'll be protecting the destruction of wildlife and the endangered species on the property. You'll be protecting the destruction of the natural watershed that causes added flooding to the residents, in which our township, and as councilmen and councilwomen that are up here, you may have seen this, bless you, it's true, that the homes of the future may have to be purchased by Parsippany if they're flooded at the township expense, because there's been a strain on emergency services with evacuations similar to the expenses we endured in Lower Lake Hiawatha. Which brings me up to the point that you'll be protecting the main pumping station number 4 of Parsippany-Troy Hills that protects Lower Lake Hiawatha and the surrounding neighborhoods. You'll be preventing JCP&L from adding easements over existing township utility easements that uses pipelines that remove sewage and stormwater from our community. You'll be protecting the property values and maintain the stable ratables. By devaluing the properties of the residents, we will lose our ratables. You'll be protecting our children, our seniors from perceptions of high voltage lines causing diseases. You'll be preserving the quality of life for our residents due to visual pollution and the high voltage noise. But in closing, the residents of this affected area are asking you to protect the taxpayers, our families, our future children. Vote no. We hope that you make the right decision and vote no in this matter, which you will be remembered directly in November by the surrounding 400 plus voters that are here that represent this community. We thank you and remind you again, please protect the residents, vote no. Thank you.
Hank Gola, 7 Ray Street. I feel I'm actually preaching to the choir a little bit after your opening remarks on the same subject. But I'd like to go on the record as to our feelings about this proposed project with JCP&L. A couple of weeks ago, we got up for breakfast and looked out the back window. Everything in our backyard was in bloom: dogwood, crabapple, magnolia, and the cherry. It was a beautiful scene that we've enjoyed many times since we moved into our house in 1981. A thought occurred to me, and I rushed out to take a photo to capture what I feared was a vanishing landscape. I thought that a year from now, when the trees are in bloom, we're going to be looking at what JCP&L calls a monopole and what I call a monstrosity. If these plans go through, JCP&L would be ruining our part of Parsippany, turning our backyard into an industrial park. And no matter how many acres the township trades, it will be forever. JCP&L will be changing the view, the environment, and the wildlife. Flood patterns will be altered for the worse, and our property values will decrease by an estimated 20%. We attended the recent scope hearing where it was evident that JCP&L cares not a whit about our concerns. The project manager was clueless in his knowledge of the area. He thought that the JCP&L and PSE&G lines ran parallel to each other. He didn't know where Sagamore Road was. He was arrogant in his ignorance. I urge the council to fight JCP&L so that this part of Parsippany is not forever lost, like so many other pristine areas of the township. I implore you to keep our area the way it was when my wife and I, 27-year-old parents of a 2-year-old, fell in love with our lot the moment we saw it. Please keep Parsippany, Parsippany. Thank you for your time. Bless you.
Good evening. My name is Brenda Church. I live at 16 Larkspur Drive. I don't want poles. I don't want wires, especially 280,000 volt wires running either behind my house or across the street. How close do I have to get to the mic? I mean, I believe everybody can hear me, correct?
It's for the record.
No, Brenda,
It's
this is
not
just for the record. It's not for hearing, just so we have you on the record.
Okay, is that any better? All right. Do I have to start over?
No.
Good. I moved to Parsippany in 2001 from a town in Essex County, a town that had buses almost every other street, police cars, all kinds of noise. On my block, when I moved, it was so quiet. I didn't even know, it was like a total different place. That was the best thing that I loved about that street. When they built the Longhorn and all those townhouses, we lost a lot of that quiet. When Hurricane Irene came through, my neighbor called us, because we were in Texas at my son's BMT graduation from the Air Force. Oh, everything's fine, everything's fine. Until we got home, couldn't even get home from the airport, finally got to my block. I had to walk down the street with my shoes off. I came into my house, my basement was completely flooded. Up to the top step of the steps going down, my freezer was floating in the muck. I don't want another issue with flooding. It's been raining these past few days. My kids and I know, check the pump, check the pump, check the pump. Anybody doing any kind of construction is going to mess up that. I don't want that. I don't want my property values reduced 1%, let alone anywhere from 10 to 20%. Because are you guys gonna lower my taxes? No, I didn't think so. So please do not let JCP&L ruin a good neighborhood. Pond Road, Sagamore, Ray Street, Sweetwater, they're all beautiful neighborhoods. They want to run those wires too close to Rockaway Meadow. Do we know exactly what's going to happen to children's brains if they're sitting up under 280,000 volts all day? Our seniors, how do we know that's not going to destroy their brains with Alzheimer's, dementia? We just don't know exactly what it's going to do. Please do not let them play whatever games they want to play. Keep them out of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Can I just reiterate what the business administrator said at the beginning? I appreciate everyone's sentiments, and you have our support, unequivocally.
That's great.
Danny Illick, 319 Edwards Road. Mr. Kazmark assured us that this wouldn't happen. The council has assured us. Is there any way possible that the council could put forth a resolution to make sure that that land, that Green Acres land, is not sold? That there's a resolution put forward. So, listen, everybody here is a politician, right? So what you're telling me today, might not happen 6 months from now. Once election time comes in November, you guys are in office, things are forgotten. So regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, we would like it put on a record, and we would like it put in a resolution to make sure that that land is not sold. Once the JCP&L has to get their thing done, they're going to start sending money. You guys need money. You're running for election, right? So send their attorneys, their friends. Everybody starts shoveling money. All of a sudden, you approve it 6 months down the road. We'll take care of you after election. So please, if possible, we'd like a resolution put forth. Is that possible? Can somebody answer that?
I've just asked our attorney, and he says nothing can be done at the present time.
Oh.
They have to come before us to make another proposal, and at that time, we can vote.
Through you, Council President Dan, I think what you're asking for is already accomplished, right?
Correct.
So this property that was discussed at the hearing.
Well, listen, it was just same thing as the Whole Foods property. That project was dead in the water too at one point.
Okay,
and it happened anyway.
But hear me out.
So go ahead, I'm listening.
So the property that was discussed for the project, right? The yellow area on the map when we were there. Okay, that property is already protected through Green Acres.
Okay.
So what you're asking for, in essence, has already been accomplished when that was secured as Green Acres property. Okay. What they would be asking for is essentially a swap of land for that land for another parcel, okay, of land within the township, in order to make the required exchange under the Green Acres program.
No, I understand. I was at the meeting. They either wanted to give you a swap or give the township a lump sum in cash if that swap couldn't be, if they couldn't find the acreage to swap with. So it was either cash to the township for that property,
Right.
or 10 to 1, or a swap. So there is no swap to be made. I don't see an 8-acre parcel in the township of Parsippany to swap with. So bottom line is where you're left with is cash. So, listen, we're all here tonight. This project's going to go on. They're going to come back with a proposal. Hopefully everybody doesn't forget. We're probably going to have to come back here again. My concern is that, come November, now everybody's in office again, and, let's sneak it through again. Because, you guys try to sneak that through. JCP&L did, if there wasn't for a couple people that knew about it and did the legwork to get everybody to come out. So, we're just asking that in some way, shape, or form that the township residents are protected, that this doesn't go through and that property is not given to JCP&L. All right, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Walter Morales, 30 Vale Road. I appreciate that you guys are stating that you're going to support us, and I think we all really appreciate that. This is the last thing that we want for this town and for our families. I have a young son growing up in the town. I moved here from Newark, trying to get away from a lot of bad influences and bad things that were going to hurt me, and this is a completely different animal that could potentially be cancerous, right? I think that's a word that nobody's really saying, but that we really need to consider. So one of the things that I'd like to say is we really need to do it. if JCP&L comes back and there's any consideration of these towers, we really should have some type of health testing done to see what the ramifications are of these towers, because they keep stating that they do all this testing and they never find anything, but conveniently none of JCP&L's people live anywhere near any towers at any given time, and they always state the same thing. Oh, well, we don't know, we don't live anywhere near them. You know, there's good reason why. I also wanted to bring up a couple of key points from the meeting. Mr. Kazmark was
Yes.
there, right? Obviously, and one of the major points that was brought up was the mosquito spraying. So that's a big key point that shows that we're not going to be able to spray those wetlands for mosquitoes anymore. So it's really going to infest that entire area with mosquitoes. Another point that was made was every time you dig into that soil or you add any weight into that soil, the flooding is ridiculously impacted. So if you were to throw in these concrete blocks under the water, that water will disperse into all of these houses in that general area. And you're talking about hearing about basements flooding. We're going to be talking about first floors and potentially second floors flooding in some areas, just because the massive amount of water that goes through those wetlands is just going to have absolutely nowhere to go. Another key point, and obviously, you know, not to take them for granted, but there's a lot of very, very delicate wildlife, trees, shrubberies, animals that really are not protected, and I think we need to protect them. There was also something that was put on Facebook that I saw about the township asking DEP to look into this project. I really don't understand why the town would ask DEP if they've already stated that everybody here is stating that you don't want any part of this. And then additionally, there was a review that was done, and it basically stated this: there was a complete and unbiased investigation that was done into the need for the proposed project by JCP&L, and the purpose of the project is to upgrade Montville and Whippany reinforcement. We're in Parsippany. Has nothing to do with our town. It's total BS, right? Additionally, in this report, they also stated that by adding an additional 230 volt line into the Montville substation, the transmission disruptions during these periods of great demand can be taken care of. So there are other options without having to put new lines in place that they can do. It's going to cost them money. Let them pay for it. This is what they want. They want to help out Montville and Whippany. This should be a Montville and Whippany problem, not a Parsippany problem. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pat Pushak, 9 Ray Street. I have a question. I'd like to know where Mr.
Pat,
DePiro...
can you just get a little bit closer to the mic?
Okay, I have a question. I'd like to know where Mr. DePiro stands on this issue. We've heard from Mr. Kafari and Loretta. So are you also going to vote no or go against JCP&L for us? I'd like to know how you stand on this issue.
We can turn down this route, which is what you're asking, but I think JCP&L needs to run it someplace. So I don't think voting no on this is going to end the issue. I think they're going to be looking someplace else. Some other group of residents will be coming here. I don't think they're going to give up. So I think we have to stay vigilant on what they're doing in our town.
Well, we addressed
Are you
the
familiar
yellow...
with the giant power lines now that exist
Yes, I am.
going through the Arlington Shopping Center?
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But they're
those
not
are-
exactly
well,
behind my street,
the
my
initial
house.
the initial route that JCP&L proposed was to the eastbound side of those existing green giants. One of the poles would have been in a resident's backyard on Alba Place.
Mm-hmm, I know where that is.
Another pole would have been, is Ken Dolsky here?
No.
Would have been right near Ken Dolsky's backyard. The right-of-way would have gone up to his back door. So there are other routes that they can take, and they're all impacting on residents in Parsippany one way or another. So
but you were speaking of the yellow line, okay? My house and all of Ray Street is the red line that was on the map that you had shown. So what are they gonna do about that? They're not gonna take from the yellow to go to the red,
Well,
are
all
they?
I'm saying is they could possibly go back to their original route and upset
They have some
those
existing
families.
right-of-ways.
They have existing right-of-ways. They were gonna share the right-of-way with the Green Giants, just be to the right of them. There's gas lines over there now that they would be dangerously near and near a bunch of residents. There's no good solution for them unless they simply don't do it.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for. Don't do it. So I just,
I thought I just answered. It's no on this, but, okay, let me be clear then, okay?
Guys, excuse me.
Hold on.
We cannot scream from the audience. You guys can have your turn to come up and speak at the mic, but just to maintain order, we cannot yell from the audience. I do apologize for any inconvenience that may cause, but we need to maintain order here.
All right, I'll answer clearly so you can understand it. It's no on this, but all I'm saying is, I don't think that ends the issue. It's gonna pop up someplace else.
okay,
And
thank
we
you.
will deal with it when it comes
And
to
we'll deal with it
us.
when it pops up.
That's all.
That's all we can do.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, I like two options. Either don't do it, or do the infrastructure upgrades, let them pay more money, and it doesn't affect any of it.
Hi, my name is Warren Fisher. I live at 20 Sweetwood Court, and I'd like to make a few comments. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. What I hear is it'll be a no for the diversion of the Green Acres, which the township is supposed to hold in perpetuity. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Hope I get it right, Kazmark.
There you go.
He had a tough meeting to run the other night, April 24th. I think he did a fine job.
That's right.
One thing I'd like to bring to the attention of the council, it's in my letters. I'm sure you had it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but there's a BPU report with a long title on it. Generally, it was about their meetings with Montville and JCP&L and the BPU. In it, it's very clear by the JCP&L consultant himself that a 115 kV line is all they need. It serves the NERC category requirements, and it serves JCP&L requirements. If you refer to my letter, it refers you right to the paragraph that says it. This 213 kV line is not needed by JCP&L's own words. I won't go through all the details because I think my letter, pretty well outlines everything. It's got a huge impact to all of us. There's something else. I'm going to lose my mind here. I guess the main point is Green Acres is supposed to be held in perpetuity. That's right off the New Jersey DEP site. Thank you for the position that I understand you're going to be taking. And keep in mind that this project is not needed. And it's interesting to note also, because I've seen this in newspapers, the original route, and this is in the BPU report also, says they have 14 to 28 buyouts. In newspaper articles that I've read about all of this, I've read that they think there's only 3 affected homes along the new route. Well, I present to you more than 3 homes worth of people. The information that JCP&L has been putting out in newspapers and in their own documents is contradictory and not right. I hope you will take a close look at what I put in the letters because I do detail it. Thank you for your support. I know we'll be back again. I think you're probably right. JCP&L might be back, but they did say that one of their options is not to do it. So if we're strong enough and collectively present our opposition, then maybe they'll take that that option not to do it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
the packet I received in my mailbox this evening, is that the same information that you presented to me via email? Or is
Yes.
this an additional
Yes.
information?
It's the same, Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
I don't know what package you got this evening. I sent you a letter last week that you
Yes.
acknowledged.
Yes.
And I sent you an email yesterday, I think
Yes.
it was. That's all I've issued.
Okay.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
James Griffey, Parsippany. I have some other things I'd like to talk about, but after seeing so many residents here, I found something interesting that Mr. Illick had said about why make these people come back? Pass the resolution. And then Loretta said there's nothing before us to vote on. But there was nothing before us about a marijuana dispensary. And you put a motion out, a resolution that passed. There was nothing about a sanctuary city, but you put a resolution out. Put a resolution out for these people and vote on it so they don't have to come back. That's my first thing. The second thing is this cricket field. That is absolutely ridiculous, Ms. Peterson, if that's what Mr. Walsh is saying. This is cricket field has been an issue every election. Every election. You mean to tell me one or two people is going to make the difference? I happen to agree with my brother on this, only for that simple fact, but I think as I speak further down and I address the new PAL director, perhaps we could find the money to help build for the Indian community this cricket field. I want to just talk about the Parsippany police officer that you forced to retire for allegedly stealing time. Then you forced him to retire because of this incident, and you put a motion forward, Mr. DePiero, and you seconded it, Loretta, to allow him to retire in good standing. And you also allowed him to be paid his accumulated time. With that being said, in February of 19, the same time, let me read this letter from the Parsippany Police Department. Accordingly, the records provided by the Support Service Division, Patrolman X, was issued a 2 gigabyte flash drive by the department on April 14, 2008. Patrolman X advised me this morning that that particular flash drive became inoperable about 7 to 8 years ago, and its whereabouts are unknown. Mr. DePiero, Ms. Loretta, I ask you, hold yourself the same accountability as you did me. I turned mine in. This is out there. Here's another one. I was here last meeting. 45 officers, I told you. This is 46. 46. But you don't care about anybody else, just me. Okay, now I'll move on to the PAL. Maybe we can find some money to build the Indian community this cricket field. So we have a former Parsippany police officer that runs the PAL for $104,000 a year. Doesn't accept medical benefits. Great. Knows the demographics of the town, knows the school, knows the roads, knows everything about the town. Spent a significant amount of time. What happens? I don't know why he's leaving or why he's being forced out, but now we bring in a new guy at $120,000 a year plus benefits that knows nothing about Parsippany. And here's the kicker. You want to know where the guy's from? He's from the town of the BA, Woodland Park, where he's the mayor. He knows nothing about Parsippany. Doesn't even know where North Beverwick Road is. Talk about Sagamore, you don't even know where North Beverwick Road is. Not only that, it gets worse. It gets worse. They're keeping the former PAL director on as a consultant at $3,000 a month. $3,000 a month is $36,000 a year. $36,000 a year. You know how much one school resource officer would cost? $36,000. You could put that money towards either the cricket field or one officer in one of the elementary schools that's not protected. And here's my last thing. It's a civil service position. It's a civil service position. Why not give the benefit of the doubt for the Parsippany employees that work so hard, that we all commend election time, we commend on how hard they work. Why not give them an opportunity to take this test to make $120,000 that a guy from Woodland Park walked in and got the other day, that knows nothing about Parsippany? Why? Ask me that. Why? Why can't we give that test and make it fair? Soriano ran on cleaning up Parsippany. This is the same stuff that's happened with the Barbario administration, all these backroom deals. That guy doesn't know anything about Parsippany either. It's ridiculous. So again, I'll ask some questions. I know you don't plan on answering, Mr. Lott, but I do have one that perhaps you will allow them to answer. My first one is, why is it acceptable for an officer to retire with full benefits and his compensatory time from the township when the township is aware that he didn't return department property? And all these people, personal information is out there. You can't change it now, Mr. DePiero. You said it all about me. What about these other 46 people? 46 flash drives and information is out there. that nobody knows. All these people are in danger. That's my
minute.
first question.
1 minute.
1 minute left. Mike and Loretta, you put this motion forward to allow this officer to retire. Why are you taking that same position? Why? And then here's one that you may allow him to answer, Mr. Lott. Why didn't the township call for a civil service exam for the PAL director and give our current township employees an opportunity to further their career, the ones that may possibly even live in town, to get this job? Anybody?
So I'll give the advice I gave at the prior meetings when the issues concerning,
I'm sorry, Mr. Lott, I'm sorry to cut you off. Before he cuts me off, I do have one last thing, and that is about my next topic next week will be about the Knoll Country Club. So I just want to know, Mr. Kazmarek, if you could let me know by that meeting if all the handicap parking spots meet the state regulations, if they're all signed, approved, marked, and the signs are up on them. If you could let me know that.
I'll consult with the municipal engineer.
Thank you.
Mr. Carriffy? Mr. Carriffy, if I may, please?
Yes.
In regard to the sergeant that you're talking about, that Mike and I approved for him to get his comp time, I did not want this man to be fired. Okay? I thought it was a ridiculous reason for him to be fired.
Ms. Granati, I think that we should stay out of personnel matters that were discussed in closed session.
Fine.
And I
That's
appreciate
it.
that, but here's the thing. He's not a sergeant anyway. He was a patrolman. So much, at least if you're going to talk about the individual, know what his background is. Thank you.
Nicholas Homiak from Lake Hiawatha. When Captain Carriffy comes up here, I wish he would remember he was targeted on purpose by Inglesino and Barbario because he was a threat, because Paul was a threat to their regime here. And I was in the town hall the night when Mr. Inglesino, when he brought Aurora Security, which looked into your brother's thumb drive and found absolutely nothing, and the excuse before that happened was there was rogue phone calls being made in Parsippany in the sewerage plant to North Korea, Taiwan, and England. England is where Aurora happened to be based. But if you thought someone was making rogue phone calls, and I believe it was over $30,000 that Parsippany was being charged, the town clerk could have settled the problem. But Mr. Inglesino had to get in. But why wouldn't you get the FBI involved? Why would you get Aurora's security? And the next thing, pin the tail on Captain Carriffy with Aurora. A big waste of taxpayers' money, a complete hoax, and that Mr. Inglesino did no good to this whole town. He used this town to make money for himself and his law firm. And I don't think your brother, by all rights, should take it out on, shame on the people who let Mr. Inglesino get as far as he did. But the whole thing was caused, the Aurora thing was to ruin you and keep them in power here. And that's all I have to say. And I just don't think that Captain Carriffy should punish the new town of Parsippany for that particular incident. I think he should let it stay. He's going to settle it behind some other means. And that's, I'd like to say that.
Good evening. My name is Michael Pushek. I'm at 9 Ray Street. And the same thing I did at the last meeting that we're at with the JCP&L. Since they're bringing in lines through our area, which is behind my house, are they going to pay for my reduction in 20 to 30% my loss of my property? That's one. To all these people, too. They don't want to lose money. And how much is the town making off of this gig? Same answers.
I have no idea.
So now, They're going to put the lines through, they're going to devaluate our houses, and nobody's going to pay for that.
Through you, Council President, the town is not profiting off of this project.
Oh, they're not making any money?
No.
No?
No.
They're losing
And
money?
quite frankly, just to refer back to the earlier conversation where we talked about the land swap versus the compensation.
Yeah.
None of the conversations that I had been involved with JCP&L leading up to that hearing, which were limited, but in the few conversations that we did have, the compensation piece was never considered a viable option.
But once
if in fact this was to go forward, the consideration that was given was that there would be a land swap. So while there are options for how the town would be compensated, the path forward, should there have been public support for this, which clearly there was not, would have been to move forward with a land swap. So there is no financial benefit to the municipality for JCP&L building these lines. I just want to be clear about that.
That's fine. Now, are they making money off the lines?
But they're a
They're a utility.
a company. They're a utility.
But
they make money. Yeah.
They're going to make money, a lot of money. We're not going to make anything. We're going to lose value. So at that meeting, I brought it up. They couldn't answer like you people can't answer. But the problem lies still, I don't want to take a 30% hit on my house to lose so they can make money. If they have other routes, because they don't want to pay the other municipality or whatever the town is, or the other lines that are up already, to hook onto their lines. They want to come through here to devaluate ours, but they don't want to pay the other electric company money. Is that a fact? They did bring that up.
PSE&G.
Yeah.
The proposal that was brought up.
So they
by
got
the
turned
first
down.
speaker.
They got turned down for money value.
They got turned down by PSE&G to gain access to their poles, yes.
Yeah.
That was in
okay.
the report.
So that was the payment. All right, now, if they run it through, are you going to take, since you have the ability, and you can do a resolution, can you turn around and say, well, you know what, these fine people lost value to their property. Why don't you give them tax-free land? Right? I mean, you can do that. I mean, you do a lot of other gigs in town. And some people know what they do in this town, because I was in front of this town for a preschool, and then I found out that the preschool is Parsippany Daycare, which is owned by the town. And they give $1 lease to that preschool. You ran me 5 years, 2 court cases to get mine approved, and you know that, because you were there. Children of America. You remember that one?
Yes, I do.
5 years because you had all your buddies on the board.
They weren't buddies. They were men and women that were appointed. Did I know them individually? No, I did not. So don't accuse me of that.
Let him ask all his questions.
That's all right. But that's what I wanted to know. See, so that was like behind closed door meetings. So same thing with this other deal, is all behind closed door meetings. So we should lose, but they should make out. I don't get that one. So if you guys can vote on it, that you're going to compensate us, so we don't lose, because we pay taxes. These are your taxpayers. And if you want to give us a break,
1 minute left.
if you want to give us a break, then charge everybody else in town raise their taxes. See how they go for that. But you want us to lose 30%. Thank you.
Sir. Sir, I will answer you one question, that last thing about the 30%. Obviously, we can't do that, but I assure you, because I know that affects your quality of life.
True.
Obviously, the value of your property is going to go down for that.
Correct.
And that is one of the reasons, that is one of, if not the main reason, why I will never support that, and that I will always fight against that and fight for you, because that will affect your quality of life. So can I give you 30% of the money back? No. But can I assure you that I will fight for you? Yes.
Well, all we got to do is, if they're making money, tell them to give us, so we can take it off our mortgage. That's all. That's what we want. We want 30% off our mortgage, so we don't have to pay more.
I wish I had that kind of authority, but
wait.
I don't.
When they go to you begging, let me put it through, you got to say, hey guys, take care of the people. Take care of the people. Thank you.
Heather Kirk. I live in Parsippany, 26 Sagamore Road. You mentioned you mentioned the land swap, which I'm glad that it's not about money. That's good to hear that my town is for the environment and making sure that we're all living in safe homes. As I understand it, the land swap is a 4-to-1 ratio, is what they need to do. My concern is that it needs to be of equal or better value, is my understanding of the terminology. I don't believe that there is 4 times more wetlands that they can swap for, and I want to make sure that we're not swapping for forest land or any other type of land. It needs to be equal or better, and the wetlands, of course, have a very important impact on our environment. Can I get assurance that there will not be a swap for another type of land and that it will be of equal land?
So through you, Council President, I could say that in very preliminarily, as we were going through the discussions that led to the public hearing, the town planner, Susan Favada, was asked to identify open parcels of land in the township that could be considered. Nothing was settled upon. To be honest with you, once the Green Acres hearing occurred, we dropped it because JCP&L informed us the next day that they were going back to the drawing board.
Okay.
We have preliminarily, and Susan was at that meeting that you attended, we had preliminarily put together some areas of land that would be considered. Exactly how the condition of those properties based on wetlands and the concerns you expressed both tonight and at the public hearing I can't
Correct.
speak to.
Yep.
But you know, if this were to proceed, which at this point, listening
Hopefully
tonight,
it's not, right?
not, you know, that would have to be taken into consideration.
Right, and that is just my point, is just to make sure that it would be of equal land, right? Because there's a lot of species out there in that wetlands. There's important, you know, plants and everything like that, that swapping for something else, you're going to be losing, you know, the wetlands are really, truly important to our environment. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mario Santulli, 30 Sagamore Road. Sorry I couldn't be at that meeting on the 24th. I had a loss of a family member.
Can I have you just speak into the mic for the record?
Sure.
Thank you.
Attorney Lott, could you answer the question that Karifi had about the civil service position? I never got an answer about that.
I think I'd like to defer to Mr. Kazmark on that, who was involved in the hiring, but I think he was hired in a non-competitive position, if I recall.
The same title as the prior PAL director.
Correct.
Mr. Karifi, I'm a civil service employee also. And the town that I work for, same thing happened. Same thing happened. Mayor, it's not like dealing with employees, starts outsourcing. Hires an administrator.
Can I ask you to speak? Sorry, I just need you to speak into the mic. There you go.
Hires an administrator. Winds up getting him a job in another town. Doesn't want to do anything, you know, nothing to do with civil service employees being in the pension. Now he is getting the benefits, getting the pension. It happens, everyone. Happens in every town. Smoke screens and mirrors. As far as Sagamore Road, to get back on topic, you guys have the ability, you're up here, okay? You deal with JCP&L. Proposal. You know, I belong to a union. We negotiate. You negotiate. Proposal. You want this? Why are you even talking about land swapping properties? Why? That shouldn't be an issue. No. You're not doing it. If you do, these are stipulations. Tax exemptions for every resident that is affected by this whole situation. Flooding, anything that happens with flooding, who's going to be responsible? Okay? I want it in writing. Okay? It's on you guys. You represent us. Election's coming up. You were elected to represent the public, the taxpayers of Parsippany. Do right by us.
Hello, my name is Manish Mistry, 246 Edwards Road, Parsippany. You know, we raised this issue and concern about the environmental effect and flooding and health-related issues on that meeting in public scooping that day. when that meeting started, we were told that it's approved by the state, and it sounded like, you are here just to inform, but this is going to take place. That was the initial impression, and I was kind of scared the hell out of that thing because the line is passing right by my house. Initial impression was, we got approval, you are here just to be informed that this is going to take place. Even I see the marking of surveying on the land. If the township did not pass that thing, did not give permission, why did they do that thing when the matter is so far away from being built? Why did they do that thing?
Through you, Council President, what was said at the top of the hearing, and I do believe it may have been misinterpreted by some of the people in attendance, was that the project had been approved by the Board of Public Utilities in Trenton. Okay, that's a fact. Where the township comes into this and where the council comes into this is that the council would need to consider the route based on the fact that they are asking to take a different path with regard to these power lines. So they would be impeding on current open space as part of our open space inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were to go in the route that they have been proposing, the township would need to agree to that. But the project itself, okay, the extension of these power lines,
Mm-hmm.
has in fact been approved by the Board of Public Utilities.
Right. I mean, you guys, whether you are in administration or somebody else, should make sure this should not take place. Okay, this should not take place because it's affecting. We had a flooding in my house too. I had a flooding. I had almost $40,000-$50,000 worth of money went into that thing. Luckily, I had a flood insurance, but still, 6 or 7 months were living like hell. Okay, we have health consequences because of this thing. Flooding, environmental issues. And another suggestion is when we have a meeting like this, I would suggest that you guys, as elected members of the town, stay present to support us, because none of you were there, and it's kind of we have no support. You should be there when stuff like this kind of thing, very serious thing is happening. You should be there as our representative. We elected you to ensure that you take care of our well-being, you take care of our township.
Can you just get closer to the mic, sir? Thank you.
So stuff like issue like that, I suggest that you guys should be there, because that's why we chose you. We elected you to ensure that our problem get resolved and we are protected. So that's one thing I definitely suggest. And as the gentleman said, the council should have some kind of resolution so they do not do this project either this year, because I remember this thing happened 3 or 4 years ago too. And so it will come again back in 3 or 4 years, or maybe in a couple years, God knows when. And we will be always under a threat of devaluating our house values, the environmental effect, the flooding. Why we do have to worry over and over and over on the same issue where we all know the consequences of this thing? That's it. Thank you very much.
My name is Bob Venezia. I live at 102 Brooklawn Drive, and I just like to make some comments about the PAL hiring practices that we just heard about. First observation I'd like to make is that since none of the statements that were made were refuted, I'm going to assume that every one of them were accurate. And
they were not.
They were not. Well, why didn't you refute them if they weren't? I'm going by the.
Go ahead, you keep going. We'll do it at the end.
Okay. What I heard was we have hirings at inflated salaries. We have a hiring of a babysitter at $36,000 a year. And it wasn't brought up, but I also heard separately that another position was going to be created that had been eliminated years ago. So all of that adds up to, a decent amount of increased budget expenses, and there's no appreciable extra benefits to the taxpayers. That money could have been used, as some of the council members like to say, it could have been used for other purposes, like reducing debt or reducing the sewer and water transfers to the general budget. Now, big deal was made over the $50,000 that was transferred this, the reduction of $50,000 that was made this year. Well, you just wiped it out with this PAL business. Now, the next logical question that comes to my mind, probably a lot of other people's minds, is, okay, if this is going on here, how many other departments in the administration are hiring people at inflated rates? And how many other departments in the administration are creating unnecessary extra positions?